Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the learning of English as a language. As you all know, apart from grammar and course book that as students we learn, English also evolves around different skills like reading, listening, speaking, and writing. You are aware that we have already done 2 listening skills, or almost 3 also. So that was the practice for your listening skill. It helps you to concentrate and increases your listening power. In this video, we'll taking up reading skill. Now, reading skill is not only based on just how fluently you read, but it is also related to how you comprehend it. What is your understanding of the language? So understanding of the language is a very crucial part because your course book contains a lot of text materials like poems, short passages, stories, okay? And all these things, they require understanding. Usually as teachers, we explain you the chapter, but in course book, the stories which you read, the plays which you read are actually reading comprehension stories and things. Okay. Apart from this, reading and comprehending is also there in all other subjects which you are going through, irrespective of language. For example, in Gujarati Hindi also, you need to read and comprehend. In science, SS, or even in maths, you need to think logically, and you need to apply your observations, what you understood about things. So, reading skill is one of the most important skill in English language. If you have become good listeners, it will be easy for you to speak the language. And if you are fluent in speaking in English or you are trying to learn, then reading becomes even more easier for you. So for students out there who are now at home and we are going through online learning, I request you to read a lot of books, listen to channels or videos which are English based. So if you hear a lot of English, you will know how to speak, how to pronounce, and furthermore, you will learn how to read correctly, and of course, it will reflect on your writing skill as well. So we are moving towards the reading skill. The most important question that students ask, why do we read? Reading has become such a frustrating and such a time-consuming and non-entertaining thing in today's life that students and general public, they don't like reading. What usually they tend to tell us is, in spite of me reading the whole thing, can you just quickly tell me what it is about? They don't have time to sit and read and go through it and understand. So they just quickly glance at whatever it is and try to understand the material, the content or the text as soon as possible. And therefore, on the mobile phones, we also have a very shorthand typing method which does not have proper spellings either. So reading has become a very unentertaining skill nowadays. Not everyone likes to read. Usually they like quick things, so they just glance through it or they ask someone to just explain what it is exactly. If you move forward in this direction, I'm sorry, you will not be able to read or comprehend or even speak fluently in English. So if you want to better the language, you need to listen to things which are in English language. You need to speak English as much as you can at home, with your friends, in school, wherever you are, and whoever understands English, you should speak in English to make the language better. And if you want to have a proper grasp, a proper holding on the language, the other thing is reading. Reading comes with a lot of practice. Okay, so if you just take a book once a week or once a month or just very rarely, and then you expect that you will start reading fluently, it does not happen that way. So you need to try and learn reading bit by bit every day. Okay, so why do we read? We come back to the question. We usually read a text to gather information about a topic or an idea. If you don't know about a certain topic, we generally tend to read rather than Googling. And even if you Google, you need to read the information which is there. So we usually read anything and everything, whether it's a text or a paragraph or a passage. We read to gather information about that a particular topic or an idea. Number two, we read a text to learn how to do or make something. Okay, we usually read to learn how to do something. So for example, I want to make chocolate cake. I need to read the recipe. So I need to learn how to read. So if I want to make something, I need to learn how to read the instructions. So I usually read a text to learn how to do something. Like if I want to make a project, or say if I have to learn how to write calligraphy or how to make a craft, I need to learn or read the instructions. So if I read the instructions, I will know what to do next. The other thing is we read a text to understand the opinions of others. For example, newspapers, you have a lot of newspaper articles. Many of your parents might be reading newspapers, and many of you might be wondering why parents are reading, newspaper early in the morning, and then they insist you also to read newspapers, and why to do that. It is because after reading, you try and understand the opinions of others, the people who have written their belief or their disbelief in the newspaper. So you try and understand what others have to say on a simple topic. And the most important topic nowadays, which is going on, is COVID, and related to that is education. So many people have different views of reading and understanding. So the most common is that if I read a text, I read to understand what others are trying to say. And then the last is entertainment. We read a text to be entertained. So there are many books like fairy tales, like action stories, or like comic books. We read it to entertain ourselves. Few people just have pleasure in reading. For some, reading is a passion. They can read books for hours and hours. So they read magazine, they read comic books, they read comic strips, they read novels, they read textbooks also, English stories, which they really like. They read on Kindle nowadays. So reading has become so important for some people. It has become an entertainment for them. So in all the above cases, the reader must be able to decode the words in a passage. To decode means to try and understand the meaning of what the writer has said in the passage. So as a reader, you should be able to understand what the writer is trying to say in the passage and then create a meaning from it. Okay, that is where the comprehension takes place. Now it is very common for you to hear that during exams we are like, you have a comprehension passage, whether it's Hindi, Gujarati, Sanskrit, French or English, you all have to go through a comprehension passage. So why do we use a comprehension passage? Okay, we use a comprehension passage to comprehend. So that skill, we are actually testing your skills of how properly can you understand the passage that is given to you. How can you create, you can decode the words, you can understand whatever the writer has written and then create a meaning of your own from that. So whether you have understood the true meaning of the passage or not is what we actually try and test you in your papers. So then, from this we move on to the next question. What do you mean by comprehension passage? Now, the word comprehension usually means the ability to understand what you listen or what you read. Okay, we love to listen and we love to read. So if you're a good listener, you'll be able to understand what the opposite person is trying to say. And if you're able to read properly, you will understand what is written in the paper. So that is what comprehension actually means. Comprehension is actually an exercise which aims at improving or testing one's ability to understand the language. So if I give you an English reading comprehension passage, it means I want to test you on whether you are able to understand the English language. Are you able to truly know the meaning of the passage which is written in English? And a Hindi teacher will give you a Hindi passage to know whether you are truly able to understand the Hindi language, what the passage is trying to say, the true meaning of it. So, the stories and poems, the questions and answers are unseen to you before you read them. So, usually in your paper, as a comprehension passage, every time a new one comes, and why a new one comes? Because that actually forms a basis. It is an unseen passage which you have never read or when you have never solved it at any point of time. And then you read it for the first time, and now whether are you able to understand the meaning of the language and what the passage is trying to say. That is what you comprehend. So in the comprehension passage, you are actually given a passage or a paragraph or both. It depends on which standard you are. Okay, and these paragraphs in these comprehension passages, these paragraphs, they show the idea, the mood, the issues and the solutions that the author provides. So usually the paragraph has characters. If not characters, it gives you an idea, or it tells us about a person, or it refers to an issue like flood, like earthquake, like COVID, and what solutions you can have, either to curb it, either to stop it, or it is increasing, then why is it increasing? Okay, so usually the paragraphs, there are many types of paragraphs, comprehension paragraphs that are given to test in a language. So as a reader, the main task, the main aim of you is to answer the questions that are asked in the passage. Now you are supposed to answer as nearest to the meaning as you can. So this is why usually we have reading comprehension passages in English language and also in other languages. Okay, now there are many ways of reading a passage. Why there are many ways? Because we are different in number. All individuals are different. We are not same. So each individual has its own way of understanding. Some of you can summarize it and then understand it. So what are the most important things when you're reading a passage? Some of you will think that what is the most important thing from the passage? I will just go through it so I know what the passage is about. Some of you question to the passage. What questions I can ask so I can create a meaning from the text. The others, they like to predict that what will happen next. Okay, there are some passages which end in such a way that you need to think that what can happen next. The other is monitoring. You are yourself monitoring your way of comprehending, like, does this text make any sense of what it is writing or what I am reading? Am I trying to understand it? The other is inferring that what, after reading the text, what do you think about the text? Is the text proper or is the text not proper for you? And then we try, and some of you are there who try to make connections with the text. Like if I have a comprehension passage about a person, then usually you try to think about the topic if you already know. And then you try and make connections that I had read in the newspaper one day about floods. And now this passage is also about floods. So I have some idea about how floods are there, what damages do they make, and what solutions can be there. And then you have visualizing, like while you're reading a story, usually visualizing is the first thing that it comes to your mind. Like you're reading a fairy tale, and then you are actually visualizing the dress of the princess and the horse in which the prince is coming and the castle, how beautiful it is decorated. So you try and imagine it so that you can understand the text better. So these are different ways of reading a passage. Now, what is monitoring? Monitoring is one of the strategies, is one of the ways in which you can be aware of your thoughts and you can keep a track whether you are able to understand the text, what you're reading or not. So when you monitor your thinking while you are reading, you are able to identify what you understand. You are able to pinpoint that I'm not able to understand certain words or certain lines, or you use ways to solve your problems in your understanding. So this is the way you can monitor your reading, is that you can identify that I understand from this whole passage that I have read. I think first two passages, first two paragraphs I can understand the meaning of certain words or certain phrases I'm not able to understand. And then I try and find out ways, like I use a dictionary to find out the meanings, or I ask someone to make me understand this, or I ask my friend to make me understand the sentence. So I can solve my problem and I can understand the passage properly. So this is the way of monitoring your thoughts while you're doing a comprehension passage. So then how do you monitor? You think about ways in which you might monitor your understanding of the text, like you ask questions to yourself while you're reading, that is this text making any sense to me while I'm reading? Am I able to understand it properly? Am I able to connect to it? Do I know what all the words mean? If I don't know certain words, I underline it. If I know all the meanings of the word, it means that I am understanding what is written in the passage. How am I feeling as I'm reading the text? Is the passage a really sad one? Is it really happy and fun one? Or is it full of excitement, that like adventures and all? How am I feeling about it? Which part of the text are the most appealing to me? Like, what is the thing that I really liked about the passage? It can be the dress, how it is described of the princess, or it can be the garden, which has a lot of juicy fruits in it. That may be more striking, more appealing to me in the passage. And the last one is, what ways should I use to improve my understanding? So if I am thorough with all this, it means I am understanding the topic. And if there is some problem in any of the questions you ask, it means that you need to improve your understanding level, which means you need to do a lot of reading and monitoring yourself. Now, apart from parents and as teachers, we teach you how to read, we guide you how to read, but the most important thing is to come from you. If you all are not inclined, do not like reading, it becomes really hard for you to like solve a comprehension passage, and that is why many of you might be scoring less also in comprehension passages. So if you want to improve in comprehension passages in your papers, you start reading, listening, and speaking in the language. Okay, now this is a small and a quick monitoring symbol that I have found, and this has been really important to me while I'm reading a story or I'm solving a comprehension passage. These are simple symbols. In these symbols, there are 6 symbols and each symbol has its own meaning. Okay, so these symbols I have learned to mark and I have learned how to add wherever possible, so that when I am trying to find the answers of the questions which are given later on in the comprehension passage, it becomes easy for me to just see the symbol and I can connect, all right, this is what is important, I had already marked it, so let me go through it. Or this is what I have not understood, so I need to find my dictionary, I need to know the meaning of the word so I can understand the passage properly. So usually this symbol, it helps you to mark important uh, portions in the passage, and you can easily monitor your reading skill. For example, there is a star on the left hand side top. The star is used to think that that this is an important part of the text, this is the main theme of the text, or this is what the text is about. This is an important thing I've marked as a star. If I've already understood the text, I put a small tick. Okay, if I've really enjoyed a sentence or a character, I put a small heart over there. If I'm surprised with certain facts which are given in the text, in the passage, I put a exclamation mark. If I've learned something very important from the text, like I've learned something about a desert, or if I've learned something about computers, then what I do is I put a addition sign, okay, that this is a very important part and have learned from this, okay. And then I have a question one, which is very easy. If I'm confused, I don't know the meaning of a word, I put a question mark. If I don't understand the passage, I put a question mark. If I don't understand a phrase, I put a question mark. So these monitoring symbols will help you to understand, break down your passage so that you know how to solve your own doubts by yourself. Okay, let's have an example activity. So I have put up a paragraph over here, and this paragraph is an example activity. I'll read the paragraph to you, and I will teach you how I can use the monitoring symbols which I had shown in the earlier slide. So even you can try it out while you're reading your novels or your stories, or while you're solving your extra comprehension worksheets by yourself. Okay, so this is an example activity paragraph. I read through the paragraph. Mainly, the paragraph is about once in a blue moon. It is making us understand about the phrase once in a blue moon. What do you mean by once in a blue moon? Have you heard about it? And how did this phrase come into origin? Okay, so I'll quickly move to the second slide so you come to know how I have monitored. So this is what I have done. I have read it, so let's read it. Have you ever heard someone use the phrase once in a blue moon? When I read this first line, I did not understand the phrase, so I underlined the phrase and I put a question mark over there. The passage is about this, but I don't know what is once in a blue moon is, so I put a question mark over there. People use this expression to describe something that they do not do very often. Alright, so this is the meaning of once in a blue moon phrase, which is very important. So I've underlined it and I've put a star over there. Okay, for example, someone might say that he tries to avoid eating sweets because they are unhealthy, but will eat chocolate once in a blue moon. Or someone who does not usually like to go to the beach might say, I visit the shore once in a blue moon. While many people use this phrase, not everyone knows the meaning behind it. The first thing is to know that the moon itself is never actually blue. This is just an expression. So the phrase blue moon actually has to do with the shape of the moon and not the color. And then as the moon travels around the earth, it appears to change the shape. And I have put a tick over there because I found it very important and I did not know this, that as the moon travels around the earth, the shape keeps on changing. So I've underlined and I put a tick over there. Okay, we associate certain names with certain shapes of the moon. For example, when we can see a small part of the moon, it is called a crescent moon. A crescent is a shape that looks like the tip of a fingernail. When we cannot see the moon at all, it is called a new moon. And then I've underlined the other lines because I feel that these lines are very important. I've learned something very important. So I've put a plus sign over there that this is the important information from the passage that I have learned today. Okay, and then I move towards the end of the passage. This fact has led people to use the expression once in a blue moon to describe other very rare events in their lives. So I have really liked that you use the phrase once in a blue moon to describe some rare events in your life. Such rare ones which you usually don't share with anyone. So it might be your secrets which can happen once in a blue moon. I've really liked that sentence, so I have put a small heart over there. So that is how I can monitor my reading, whether I have understood this. If I'm able to place these 6 symbols in a paragraph, it means I'm able to understand what I'm reading and make out what I know, what I don't know, what I really liked, and what is the most important thing in the paragraph. Alright, let's move forward. Okay, so that was how I solved my passage by putting up the monitoring symbols over there to make my understanding clear about the passage that I have read. You can also try the same thing, but before we move on to the practice session, here's a small tip for you. Every time, whenever you read something, try not to ignore an unknown word. The best possible way is to look up the meaning of that word so that you understand the sentence or the passage properly. This will help you a lot to learn new words, and also don't forget to use then these new words into your everyday conversations, either with your friends or family members or in class or with me, whenever it is possible for you. So in that way, you will always remember the new word that you have learned. In this way, keep working on your vocabulary and reading comprehension, and do not stop this practice, because if you stop the practice, you'll again lag behind and it will again take time for you to cope up with the things which you have missed. So this is your practice activity. I have already solved one passage in this video and I have put my monitoring symbols on that passage. This is a short passage for you people. I have put the monitoring symbols above on the page slide. You can go through them and read the passage carefully. If possible, you can write this passage down in your rough notebook and you can underline and mark the monitoring symbols, what you like the most, what surprised you, what was more important for you, what are the important facts in this passage that you have learned, what is the most confusing thing that you did not understand, or any word meanings that you did not understand, and a small tick that you have already understood these sentences properly. You have easily comprehended the passage then. So, while I'm ending this video, this paragraph is your practice activity. I want you to write this paragraph down either in a rough book or in one of your English books, and then use a pencil and scale and you can underline as per the monitoring symbols and you can put those symbols over there. So you will come to know about the passage more properly. You'll be able to comprehend the passage more properly. So this is your practice activity of this week. I hope you enjoyed listening to this video. So thank you for watching this video. This was your reading skill comprehension activity. Comprehensions are very important in any language. So this is one of the ways you can learn how to comprehend a paragraph or a passage. This may help you in your exams further. And please read as much books as you can. Try and learn how to read. This will help you with your vocabulary and understanding as well. So thank you for watching the video once again. You can subscribe to my channel to keep a track on all the videos which I have made, and you can follow the playlist as well. See you.